So if that's who we serve, what exactly do our clients need? And many of the individuals here that are in the research phase, I guarantee you, many of them are going to be looking to start companies. And many of them are not even going to know to ask questions and seek help from mentors and guidance on all 5 of these. They just don't know. The number of entrepreneurial ventures that we see who our advisors are salivating when they sit down with them saying, you have no idea what this is. Such as the case of a client we just closed $1 million round. They weren't even sure that they wanted to take it forward. Now they've signed deals with Intel and Cisco. They're growing like crazy, and 14 people in the last 18 months they've grown. It's an exceptional story. But these are the key needs. Talent. Every company needs to have the right people on board. Money is probably the most important or prevalent one that we hear companies need to have. Partners. Channel partners, go to market, suppliers, all those elements that need to come together. Customers. There's still representatives from Bell here. You know, the 5K is coming from maybe a marketing budget or a philanthropic budget. But any of these companies that have a technology that could potentially help be a channel partner or a co-strategy or an acquisition or whatever it is, that's got to happen from the community partners in their own background. You've got to get and there's a pull model. Maybe go to them with problems, like the model that OCE does exceptionally well, where they have the industry challenges and connect with the research institutions. That's exceptional. But the one that's really proven to be a really strong community strategy is the mentorship and advice. And where I'm going with that is, as a starting point within MaRS, every client, again, being a researcher, an early stage entrepreneur, not unlike these, or a bit more sophisticated if they're maybe post-revenue or post-investment capital, will come in and have a meeting with one of our advisors. And our model right now is among a whole suite of other services. We have about 100 advisors, which you can liken to coaches or parenting or consultants, whatever the term is. They're all synonymous. But collectively, these advisors, their main goal is to sit down in a client-consultant relationship, listen to the client, understand where they are, and impart advice to actually drive them towards growing their business. Now, we have 700 clients in our portfolio right now at MaRS, of which about half are truly active. I say we have 100 advisors. 70 of those advisors are volunteers from our Greater Toronto Area business community. We pay them nothing. And the rationale as to why we had to do that, although we have this large monolithic building downtown Toronto and everyone thinks we have a ton of money, MaRS is indeed a non-profit charitable organization that depends on public sector funding as well as our commercial real estate revenue to continue to do our thing. But we actually can't afford to hire that many staff. So we have 10 full-timers, 10, 15 part-timers, and the only way that we can deliver on our mentorship and mentorship model is by having these volunteers engaged. We have 70 that we've built up over the last 2.5 years, and these people contribute, I'll allude to this in the next slide, almost 25% of our total hours of advice that we provide to these clients. So the business case was we couldn't serve our clients very well before we put this in. In fact, we were doing, I would argue, a poor job from a client satisfaction perspective and results perspective in terms of job and wealth creation. So I spent an inordinate amount of time traveling throughout North America to figure out what are community engagement strategies any jurisdiction can do to bolt on to a core group of operational people to help these companies drive forward. So now from a status perspective, we have full-time, part-time, 70 volunteers, we do take some interns, and we do have a handful of corporate partners that actually, beyond contributing money, will actually have individuals come on site every other week to sit down with the companies and say, here's a goal, here's a challenge that we have. So bundled together, it works very well. And my focus will be on the volunteers. But what's interesting is when a client comes in, they have no idea they're meeting with a volunteer, full-time, part-time. It doesn't matter, they don't need to know. So it's a bit synonymous. We give our volunteers business cards, email addresses. They can use our conference facilities. They are essentially employees with two differences. One, we don't pay them. And B, their level of engagement is typically between 8 to 12 hours a month. But from a diverse set of skills and expertise, it's working quite well. And from a recruiting perspective, guess what my #1 recruiting ask is right now? I'm looking for people of Indian and Chinese descent because when these entrepreneurs come in, the connection that they have with someone, hey, I'm from the same region in India, hey, this is what we're doing. It's an asset, it's a leverage. It's not this anxiety around, oh, should I be going down the cultural path? No, it's a huge asset. So we're pushing hard to get those communities engaged and those sources of capital engaged. So the one thing that came up, and it was mentioned in the opening remarks around, the people here should serve as ambassadors to promote Peterborough as an innovative center and all the great things that are happening here. That is, I would say, 50% bang on. The other element is getting engaged to actually work with these companies and weeding them out. And I know again, the area, the group I'm most familiar with being the Greater Peterborough Innovation Cluster. That enabling organization should provide that forum and background to do that. Because again, the whole rationale or the whole entitlement of I paid my dues in this era of complacency that some people have, if they have huge business experience and connections and the capabilities to meet those 5 needs I showed on the other slide, I don't know, I get a little controversial. I say it's a call to action. If we want to be competitive on a global scale, we don't have another choice. We just don't have any other options. I think this is one sliver I'm focusing on. But it gives some context as to how that needs to happen. And what happens over a while is you have these ambassadors, and we kind of nickname, we used to call them Martians. Everyone thought it was a bit goofy, so now we call them Mars ambassadors. We actually call them marshmallows at one point. But these individuals who volunteer, by feeling like they're part of this, little things like the email address and the business card, by virtue of them working with these companies, and they get inspired, and they want to give something back to the community, but they don't want to plant trees or something. They want to do something more, thought leadership. When they go out, and this starts to perpetuate itself, you have this cultural thing that spreads, where everyone, seemingly after 2 or 3 years, we now have this volunteer community. We have a backlog of 200 people that want to be in the volunteer advisory group because it's kind of neat. It's different. It's a club to get involved with. So they do that, but it's a broader cultural visionary element that creates this, yeah, we are an innovative community. Yes, we do have entrepreneurs that are in the works. So it's really a kind of a perpetuating element. And I briefly spoke about that. So, for the volunteers, we always ask them, we do these pulse check surveys probably every quarter. Why do you do this? What is inspiring about volunteering your time to coach and mentor and parent and connect and partner with these early stage companies? Why do you do it? And these are the top 3 reasons that come back continuously from our surveys. 1, they want to give something back. They are actually at a stage, and many of them also have full-time jobs. So sorry, it's not all retirees, but these are people in the GTA business community that want to give something back. It's their philanthropic mandate. For whatever reason, that's one of their core characteristics. The other one, because we make it pretty challenging to get into this advisory pool, they know that the caliber of other individuals that are part of this advisory pool on the volunteer side are quite credible. A third of them are current or former CEOs of regional or multinational companies. A third are been there, done that entrepreneurs, and the remaining third are subject matter experts. So you have the right caliber and the right people that come together to do these things. And they do it because they're geographically located in the GTA. It's a short drive, they want to do something, but they also like to network with other people for a whole series of reasons. And then lastly, the individuals that we bring into this, because our target market are early stage science and technology companies and innovative social purpose businesses, they have to be jazzed, and they are jazzed by what's next. When we have a company showcase a new technology, it's packed with advisors who just are curious to see what that's going to be. I want to be part of it. On the flip side, though, from a customer perspective, we don't serve the individuals who want to serve or start up a pizza franchise or start up a restaurant or an independent consulting business. Those are great businesses. We just don't have the skill sets equipped to do that. So we know our target customer fairly well. So as I approach the end of the presentation, it becomes an exercise of understanding what you have in your own backyard that you can leverage. You can start at the national level and work your way down and say, do we have these pieces? And then when you get to the localized level, you say, okay, here are some learnings that we have. Do we have a cadre of community volunteers with the right characteristics to drive that forward? Do we have service providers, law firms, consulting firms, other entities that could contribute to the spurring of these companies, their growth? Do we have connections to capital? I do know the Peterborough Angel Group, again, the name escapes you, but I know it's there. It's actually quite well known in the Toronto area. I went down to G10 and Waterloo, very active group. Corporates and businesses, Bell's here, that's exceptional. Many jurisdictions of this size don't have that engagement by the private sector. You need that. And there could be more. And then academic and government. Again, you have the two academic institutions in here as the IP factories, if you will, generating all the great technologies. Let's just hope that there's a market for them. So where do you have that intervention? I don't know if the TTO offices here get engaged that early, but is there a market for them? So this is my last slide. I know I'm standing in the way of dinner, and no one's actually drinking wine yet to get through me, so I know I'll give you that back. You know, it's a huge challenge. You know, having lived it for maybe about 3 years, starting from inception. I was the CTO initially. I did the programming and the algorithm for my company. I know how challenging innovation is. I know how hard it is to get it going. And the reality is, yes, of course, it's not meant to be easy. But the whole concept around community engagement, to understand the needs, to come together, to collaborate, to disregard this competitive nature that is important, but when you put it into perspective of the global context, if we don't engage our assets in our community and our experienced professionals in these areas, it's going to be problematic. And the sense of urgency that I mentioned right at the onset is only going to increase. So, I don't know, it's quite an exciting place to be. Again, today was inspiring. We spent about an hour there at the companies. This is it. This action jurisdiction, this is great. You know, I think it's exceptional. I think there's tons more regions can do, and to be honest, I've spent a lot of time in the southern U.S., and they kind of fumble about trying to figure out how to do things like this, because the air of competition between towns are 20,000 each, and they don't want to talk to each other. It's going to cause problems. So I'll leave it at that. If there's any other questions or thoughts, I'd be more than happy to take them. So thank you.